Welcome back to the deep dive. You know, I was reading through the stack of articles we have for today, and I was struck by this weird, uh, this sense of cognitive dissonance.
Mm.
If you look at the tech headlines, we are living in the year 3000. We've got AI detecting pancreatic cancer 3 years before human radiologists can see it. We have algorithms folding proteins to design new drugs in seconds.
Mhm.
It sounds like the problem is solved, right?
It definitely feels that way when you're looking at the research papers. The capabilities are just mind-blowing.
But then you actually go to a hospital, and the reality is just different. You walk in and you see doctors wrestling with interfaces that look like they were built in 1998. You see Post-it notes everywhere. You end up answering the same questions about your allergies to 3 different people in the same hallway.
Oh, absolutely.
There's this massive, frustrating gap between the sci-fi promise of AI and the clunky, disconnected reality of actual clinical care. And I guess my first question is just why?
That is the multi-billion-dollar question.
Yeah.
And it's the source of so much frustration. And, usually when people ask that, the assumption is that the technology isn't ready yet.
Right.
People think, oh, maybe the AI makes too many mistakes, or the algorithm isn't smart enough to trust with the life. But if you look at the source material we have today, that is simply not the bottleneck. The bottleneck isn't intelligence, it's governance.
Governance. That is possibly the least exciting word you could have used.
I know, it sounds so dry. But it's the wall that everything is crashing into. Governance is specifically the massive legal and ethical headache of how to take the most sensitive data in the world, your health records, and expose it to these powerful AI models without breaking trust, without breaking laws, and without, leaking secrets.
So the car is fast enough, the engine is perfect, but
Yeah.
we don't have the roads or maybe the traffic laws to actually drive it anywhere.
Exactly. And that is why today's deep dive is focusing on a very specific, and I think very significant, development that claims to build those roads. We're looking at a new partnership between SAP, the massive enterprise tech giant, and Fresenius, the healthcare giant.
Okay.
They're teaming up to build something they call a sovereign healthcare AI backbone.
Backbone. That implies infrastructure. It implies plumbing. The stuff you don't see but that falls apart if it's missing.
Which is exactly what we need right now.
So our mission today is to figure out if this partnership is just corporate buzzword soup, because let's be honest, sovereign AI backbone is a lot of buzzwords, or if this is actually the missing link that moves AI from cool lab experiment to daily clinical reality.
I'm leaning towards the latter. I think this is legitimate infrastructure. But to understand why, we have to unpack that first word they used, sovereign.
Yeah, let's start there. Sovereign AI. I mean, to me, that sounds like a Game of Thrones concept, or maybe a robot king. In the context of a German tech giant and a German healthcare giant, what does sovereign actually mean? Why aren't the regular tools we use, the AWSs, the Googles, the Azures, good enough for a hospital?
Well, it comes down to the fundamental difference between data security and data sovereignty.
Okay.
You can be secure in a public cloud. The encryption is great. But sovereign implies control. It implies jurisdiction. In Europe specifically, the regulatory environment is incredibly strict regarding where patient data physically sits and, crucially, who has legal access to it.
You're talking about things like GDPR, but even deeper than that,
It's
right?
deeper. I mean, think about something like the U.S. Cloud Act.
Oh.
There are valid concerns in Europe that if data sits on a U.S.-owned cloud, theoretically foreign governments could subpoena that data. For a hospital administrator in Berlin or Paris, that is a non-starter. They need to guarantee their patients that your data stays here. It stays under our law, under our control.
So if a hospital wants to use a powerful AI model today, they are effectively, paralyzed?
Yes. They can't just upload patient files to a public server to train a model because of these regulations. But they also can't build a massive AI supercomputer in their own basement because it's just too expensive and they don't have the expertise.
So they're stuck in the middle, they can't go out, and they can't stay in.
Precisely. Adopting AI isn't a technical challenge for them. It's a governance challenge. They need controlled, trusted environment where they can bring the AI to the data without the data ever leaving that safe zone.
So SAP and Fresenius are essentially building a high-security vault.
The vault with a brain, yeah. The distinction this partnership is making is that they are offering a space where the data is physically located in a jurisdiction the hospital trusts so, likely Germany or the EU, and the AI runs inside that perimeter.
Okay, so that solves the legal panic. That makes the lawyers happy. But let's say you solve that. You build the vault. Why does the source material say we are currently stuck in pilot purgatory?
Pilot purgatory. It's such a vivid term, isn't it? It describes the current state of healthcare AI perfectly.
I assume it means lots of starting, but no finishing.
Exactly. It's a graveyard of good ideas. Here's how it usually goes. A hospital administrator gets excited about AI. They approve a pilot program. Let's test this AI for spotting arrhythmia in heart scans. They run it for 6 months in one specific cardiology ward.
And it works?
It works great. The doctors love it. It catches things they missed. Everyone claps. The trial ends. And then the screen goes black. The tech goes into a drawer.
Why? If it works, why wouldn't they roll it out to the whole hospital?
Because it was built in a bubble. It was a proof of concept. It wasn't connected to the billing system. It wasn't connected to the pharmacy system. And it couldn't scale to other hospitals in the network because they used different software. It was an island.
That is incredibly depressing. It's just wasted effort.
It is waste. It's wasted innovation and wasted money. And that is what Michael Sen, the CEO of Fresenius, is targeting with this partnership. He talks about moving away from these isolated pilots and building an open, integrated ecosystem.
I have a quote from him here in the notes. He says, the goal is to make AI everyday companions for doctors. Not a special tool you use once a month for a weird case, but something that is just there, constantly running in the background.
Everyday companion is the key phrase. I
Yeah.
mean, think about your phone. You don't decide to use the spell checker or the predictive text. It's just there. It's infrastructure. That's what they want for healthcare AI. If the AI handles the documentation, the coding, the data synthesis, what does the doctor get back?
Time.
Time. Sen says it explicitly. More room for what truly matters, caring for patients.
It's funny, the public narrative is always that we worry AI will replace doctors. But in this vision, AI actually lets the doctor be more of a doctor and less of a data entry clerk.
Correct. But to get to that everyday status, you have to break out of the bubble. You have to escape purgatory. And that brings us to the whole sovereign European solution angle. This isn't just about efficiency. There's a geopolitical layer here, too.
Right, because we have two massive German companies driving this.
Yes. Europe is very nervous about relying entirely on technology stacks owned by U.S. or Chinese companies for their critical infrastructure. And healthcare is critical infrastructure. By having SAP, an enterprise tech giant, and Fresenius, a hospital and healthcare giant, build this, they are pitching it as a way for Europe to maintain strategic independence.
It's like, we want the best AI, but we want it on our terms, on our turf.
Exactly. But, and this is a big but, sovereignty doesn't cure patients. Nationalism doesn't fix a broken bone. The tech actually has to work. You can have the most sovereign, secure database in the world, but if it's clunky, doctors won't use it.
So let's get into the how. We've established the why, sovereignty, trust, escaping pilot purgatory. But what is the actual machinery here? The sources mention this platform is built on SAP Business AI and SAP Business Data Cloud.
Right.
To me, that sounds a little bit like corporate branding. What's the actual engineering problem they're solving?
The engineering problem is fragmentation.
Break that down for us.
Okay, imagine a modern hospital. It is a nightmare of disconnected systems. The radiology department uses a system from vendor A. The lab uses a totally different system from vendor B. The pharmacy uses vendor C. And administration uses vendor D.
And none of them speak the same language.
Worse, they often hoard their data. So you have these data silos. You can't train an AI to look for patterns across a patient's entire journey if the data is locked in 10 different rooms.
It's like trying to read a novel, but every chapter is written in a different language and locked in a different library across town.
That is a perfect analogy. So the core of this SAP Fresenius strategy is something they call NEMR.
NEMR, EMR being electronic medical records.
Yes. This is a very smart strategic move. Usually when a big tech company comes in, they say, hey, throw away all your old systems, they're garbage. Buy our new, shiny, all-in-one system.
Which hospitals hate because it costs millions, takes years, and retraining staff is a nightmare.
Exactly. It never happens. So SAP is taking a different approach. They're saying, keep your systems. We don't care if you use Epic, Cerner, or a homegrown system from 1995. Any EM. We aren't going to replace your systems. We're going to connect them.
Okay, but how? If they don't speak the same language, how do you connect them without rewriting everything?
You need a universal translator. And this is where we need to bust a specific piece of jargon from the notes. HL7 FHIR.
FHIR. FHIR.
Yes.
Please tell me that stands for something interesting.
It stands for Fast Healthcare Interoperability Resources.
Okay, fast is good. Interoperability is a mouthful.
It is the most important boring word in medicine. Think of FHIR as the USB port of healthcare.
Oh.
Before USB, you had a different plug for your mouse, your printer, your keyboard. It was a mess. You couldn't just plug things in.
Right.
FHIR is a global standard that dictates how healthcare data should look. It says, this is how we describe a patient's name. This is how we describe a blood pressure reading. It standardizes the data format.
So SAP is using this standard to build a layer that sits on top of all the messy hospital systems.
Exactly. They build a unified data layer. The backbone pulls data from the pharmacy, the lab, the admin desk, translates it all into this common FHIR language, and creates one clean, unified view of the patient.
And that is where the AI lives.
Bingo. The AI doesn't have to learn how to talk to 20 different old systems. It just talks to the backbone. It allows the AI to see the whole picture. It can see that the patient in bed 4 just got a prescription that conflicts with a lab result from 3 days ago because those two systems are finally connected via this sovereign layer.
That feels like the holy grail, moving from fragmented chaos to connected data-driven processes.
And that is what solves the scale problem. If you build your AI to work on this backbone, it doesn't just work in one hospital. It works in any hospital that uses the backbone. You've paved the road.
Which explains why they are talking about scaling across facilities. If the data layer is standardized, the physical location of the hospital matters less.
Exactly. It creates a network effect.
Now, building this road sounds expensive.
It is.
I was looking at the financials in the source material. They describe a mid-3-digit million euro amount investment.
Which is polite corporate speak for hundreds of millions of euros.
That is serious cash. This isn't a side project for them.
No, this is a strategic pivot. But here is the fascinating part. They aren't just spending that money on their own internal developers. They aren't trying to build everything themselves.
What do you mean?
They're investing in an ecosystem. This is a key point in the source material. SAP and Fresenius are self-aware enough to know that they cannot invent every single AI tool a hospital will ever need. They can't build the best cardiology tool, A&D, the best dermatology tool, A&D, the best admin scheduling tool.
Right, that's too much for one company. They'd become a bottleneck themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So part of that, hundreds of millions of euros, is going into startups and scale-ups. They're trying to build the iPhone App Store of healthcare.
The App Store model. That's an interesting comparison.
It fits perfectly. Apple builds the secure phone, the hardware, the operating system, the security. That's the sovereign backbone. But then they let millions of developers build the apps that run on it.
That makes so much sense. Because imagine you are a startup founder today. You have a brilliant idea for an algorithm that detects early signs of diabetes from eye scans.
Right.
Today, you have to spend 80% of your money on lawyers, compliance, and trying to convince a hospital IT director to let you touch their server.
And you probably fail. But in this new model, you just build your algorithm, you verify it works, and then you plug it into the sovereign backbone. The backbone handles the compliance, the security, and the data connection.
It massively lowers the barrier to entry for innovation.
It does. Christian Klein, the CEO of SAP, talks about this. He says they are combining leading technology with deep healthcare expertise to set new standards for data sovereignty, security, and innovation.
Standards is the key word there. If they pull this off, they become the standard operating system for European healthcare AI.
And that is why the investment is so high. The prize isn't just selling some software. The prize is becoming the foundation upon which the next 20 years of medical tech is built.
It feels like we are watching a shift in the definition of innovation. For the last 10 years, innovation meant smarter AI models. My AI can beat your AI at chess. My AI can write a better poem.
Right, the "my model is bigger than yours" era.
But this suggests the next wave isn't about the model at all.
No. The next wave is about the infrastructure. Yeah. It's about the plumbing. It's significantly more boring on the surface, but infinitely more important.
It's the difference between having a Ferrari and having a highway.
That's it. Without this backbone, the fastest AI car in the world just sits in the garage or in pilot purgatory. With this backbone, you can actually drive it to work.
So let's summarize the argument here, because there are a lot of moving parts. We have a massive governance problem stopping AI from scaling, basically trust in laws. We have a solution that focuses on sovereignty and local control to satisfy the lawyers and regulators.
Sure.
We have a technical fix, the NEMM strategy and those FHR standards that glues all these broken systems together.
Check.
And we have a boatload of money creating an ecosystem so that startups can actually build the tools doctors need without going bankrupt on legal fees.
That is the blueprint.
It really makes you realize that the barriers to the future aren't technological, they're structural.
And legal.
And
Operational.
it's funny, I came into this deep dive expecting to talk about neural networks and machine learning. But the real hero of the story is interoperability.
I know interoperability is the least sexy word in the English language. You say it at a dinner party and people walk away. But in healthcare, it saves lives. If your data can move instantly and securely to where it's needed, decisions happen faster. Mistakes get caught.
And doctors get to stop acting like data entry clerks and start acting like healers again. That's the why it matters.
It's a compelling vision. It's moving from the what if to the how do we actually do this, and doing it in a way that respects privacy. I think that's the European flavor of this story. It's saying we aren't going to sacrifice privacy for progress. We're going to build infrastructure that guarantees both.
Which is a bold claim. History is full of big IT projects in healthcare that promised the world and delivered. Well, headaches and budget overruns.
True. Execution is everything. This is not a guaranteed win.
Oh.
But having SAP and Fresenius, the tech power and the clinical power aligned on this, makes it the most credible attempt we've seen in a long time. They have the scale to actually push this standard through.
Okay, before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with something to mull over. We talked about this ecosystem concept, this idea that SAP and Fresenius are building the platform, but startups will build the tools.
Right.
Here is my question for you, and for everyone listening. If this actually works, if the infrastructure becomes standardized and the privacy headache is solved, what kind of tools might we see in 5 years that are impossible today?
That is the exciting question.
I'm thinking about niche conditions. Imagine a startup that couldn't exist today because the legal fees to access patient data were too high. But once this backbone is in place, maybe we see hyper-niche AI tools for rare diseases that no big company would ever bother building.
Or think about cross-facility preventative care. Right now, your data is stuck in the hospital where you were treated. If the backbone connects them, maybe we see AI that spots a trend in your health across 3 different specialists in 3 different cities.
Real-time monitoring that actually connects the dots.
Exactly. The possibilities open up once the road is paved. It changes the economics of what is possible to build.
Well, we will certainly be keeping an eye on it to see if they can actually lay that pavement. That's all for today's deep dive into the world of sovereign AI. Thanks for nerding out with us on the infrastructure of the future.
Thanks for having me.
Catch you on the next one.